Hello, welcome to another episode of 3 Deep, your Viking podcast. This is Scholt Scott, your host, along with Joe Oberly, Joe Johnson. How are you doing tonight, guys?
Doing well. Good to be here.
Fantastic.
Fantastic means a little more oomph, Joe.
I'd be lying.
Okay, so not quite fantastic.
And we don't lie on the 3D podcast.
No, we don't.
We respect our audience.
This is an honest show, yeah. No, people know Scolt's an honest guy, so that's all we're saying. So we're talking, of course, more right in the midst of preseason. The Vikes have had now 2 preseason games, so we're going to review the victory over Seattle. There's been a few injury little things happening out there, and a whole lot of reaction to that. So we want to discuss that here, of course, too. Not just going to let the papers write some stuff. People have been talking. I've had people at the office talking about things, so we got to go over that kind of stuff as well. We have some spots to promote, of course, so we'll get to those as we get to them throughout the show. The Vikes got the first game coming up at the Purple Palace. Chargers are in town on Sunday, so we got to talk about that.
What?
Yeah, and more preseason stuff. So, as always, we're here at the Mermaid Event Center in Mounds View. Happy to be here. They love having us here, and we're going to grow our events here, and I'll talk about those more later in the show as well. So, well, let's get started. Vikes over Seattle last week. What did you think, guys? Got the win.
Yeah.
That's always nice, even though it's preseason.
Isn't that typical Vikings to pull out the win about, 8 months too late?
Well, yeah.
And the 27-yarder by Blair Walsh.
Yeah.
Did that feel good, or was that just like a, no pun intended, kick in the pants?
For me, I always view things through the half-empty sort of things. This is a painful reminder for me of what happened. You know, it was nice to see, I guess, the team get really excited, and I heard that Cheryl's was the most popular guy on the flight home and everything, which is cool for him. But
You know why?
Sure.
You know why?
outside of the pick six?
Yeah, because he helped them avoid overtime. And nobody wants overtime in a preseason game.
Yeah,
he was king.
You think they talked about that enough on the broadcast?
Oh, yes, they did. No. Yes, they did. But, it seems to be a big deal for Paul Allen. He, made it quite well known that he didn't want to stick around for any overtime preseason football.
Yeah. I like Paul overall, but he kind of got under my craw in the game for a couple things. One we'll get into a little bit later here in a second. But yeah, if it goes overtime, it goes overtime. But I do agree. I don't think preseason games ought to go because they don't count, because they don't mean anything. There's nothing that much to gain. Somebody
brought it up at the previous one. This is why is there still overtime in preseason, and there shouldn't be. The coaches don't want it. The players don't want it. The organizations don't want it. I mean, they've sold their tickets. They don't want their players getting injured. There are so many reasons against it. It's kind of silly.
Yeah. One thing that maybe is a good thing, you see coaches going for 2 and do some of those other plays a little bit more, which I like seeing. And actually, I think they should be practicing that way more. And you should go for 2 a lot. You want to work on those plays when you need them and get that extra practice as opposed to another extra point.
Especially with the extra point getting moved back last season, teams went for 2 a lot more often. You'd like to think that we wouldn't have to do that during the regular season, but and I know it's preseason and everything, and I don't want to dump on Blair Walsh because I'll get like the exact amount of hate mail that he got. Like, don't worry about it, mail from kindergartners and everything. But if that's still in his head, and he's had points in his career where it seems like it's just mental with him. That who knows? I don't know.
It's a mental position. I mean, I equate it to golf a little bit because you got to swing, you got to hit it, and you got to hit it right, and you got to do that with a golf club. And I don't know if you guys are golfers, but
high school.
This is the biggest handicap for me is 4 inches between my ears or whatever it is. Is that a big head or is that a small? 6 inches, 5 inches?
I don't think 4 is too big.
That's a Zika head.
Okay. Nice.
In high school, they would only watch us tee off on first hole at big tournaments, and I went to Minneapolis South. We were mostly just the hockey kids getting free range balls playing golf, and I had more doubt in myself as a human being in those seconds between bringing the club back and for those people watching. It's just insane, the pressure just for high school.
So take it easy on Blair then, will ya?
Hey, I wasn't getting paid outside the range balls.
Anyway.
Yeah. So we get the win out of there. Yeah, Blair has the 27-yard kick, and then he misses one for 47. So yeah, let's talk special teams now. We'll go there first. Certainly I know people get concerned about that. Last year, preseason, he didn't have the greatest preseason either. And again, it's preseason. It didn't matter. He basically had a pretty good season last year.
Yeah.
He rebounded from a poor preseason.
Exactly.
Yes, he did.
So I guess I'd like to say, lay off on the preseason worries that, whether he hits them or not.
And you got to give Lockie credit. He's been punting better. He's had some really booming punts.
Yes.
And unfortunately, one time they said he outkicked his coverage, and I said, if that's ever a problem, I'll take it, that he's outkicking his coverage. Because, it was on the return. That was 2 weeks ago that he kicked too far, and the guy returns it. And that's not going to happen every time. If you kick it down there,
And they were kind of harping on him during the broadcast for touchbacks, saying that he only had X amount last season, and he had almost that many in the game. And I think that kind of lends itself to maybe they were playing around with directional punting. Or
they really were, and Prefer said that at training camp in Mankato. He was talking about that, and that he actually satisfied him with what he was giving him to do. Okay. He's on a short leash. They're watching him, and if he's not going to be more consistent this year, they'll start bringing in someone to compete him. That's what he said down there. Sure. But so far, so good with him as far as I'm concerned.
Kluwe, and by interviewed, I mean just emailed him a bunch of questions. He said that Locke never directionally punted, if that's the way you put it, before getting here. So it's something that is like an evolving part of his game. I obviously don't know enough about punting in college or anything, but it seems like they're working on it.
Maybe we need another roster spot for a second directional punter. No.
I heard there's some good ones in Germany.
But part of my own pet peeve with when they're evaluating a punter on, especially on things like the touchbacks, he kicks the ball where he kicks the ball, and then it's your coverage guys that get down there that need to down it, and especially if the other team doesn't return it. So how good of a job those guys can do is really dictates so much, Because if he kicks the ball and it's hitting around the 6-yard line, for example, and nobody can stop it and it bounces into the end zone, he's kicked it in a pretty good spot. The other team decided not to touch it, so there's no return risk. But if we can't get it down, then that's really more on your guys getting all down there. And certainly it's not an easy thing. I'm not saying I could go down there and do any better job. Heck no, that's 20 years too old for all that. But
it's one reason why you're still going to see Marcus Sherrells on the team, because he's really good at that as well as returning punts. So
yeah, good segue. So Sherrells, we talked about him earlier in 3 Deep podcast that you can go back and listen to if you want. Please do. But anyway, we talked about how's his spot on the team going to be. Will he make it again? He always is under the bubble or under scrutiny, but getting the interception.
Yeah, he pulled an Audie Cole. He pulled an Audie Cole last week, and that's my immediate thought was, why do we keep doubting him?
Yeah.
I mean, every year he's on the bubble, but he just performs, and I don't know. I suppose he's on the bubble because he's officially listed as a cornerback, and the cornerbacks are deeper now, and you probably don't need him to play that, which is good, but boy, he does so many other. He's like Adam Thielen. He does so many other things so well that you got to keep him on the team.
Yeah, it just seems like whenever this conversation comes up every year, he does something in a preseason game. You're just like, man, that guy's just a player. If he was a few inches taller, he could be something really special. I said this probably 2 weeks ago on this show that I thought that he could. This is probably hyperbole, but he was one of our best coverage corners. He's always in perfect position. He's just too small.
Yeah,
he's a little guy. Yeah, I've met Sherrells, and one of the smallest football players I may have ever met. So
well, I think he'll make the team.
Talented,
yeah, absolutely.
No, like I said, he does a good job at stepping up to. Let's keep talking about him all year long. So hopefully we keep talking great plays because
the run defense came to the fore. This not the run defense. I'm sorry. Well, I should let you lead it off, Scope, because you're the one that's asked these questions, and I've already stepped on my own toes. No, the run defense didn't do any better in the second game, but the pass rush.
Yeah. Viking defense stepped it up, sacking Wilson 4 times. Honestly, in Seattle, are they questioning Pete Carroll leaving Russell Wilson in that long when that kind of pressure is happening in a preseason game?
I know we're going to talk about this in a bit, but it was such a weird thing to see Teddy on the sidelines and no one expected it. Paul Allen was announcing, like, here comes Sean Hill, and then you have an arguable top 3 quarterback in the league out there for the first half.
Yeah.
Getting sacked that many times.
I was surprised by that. So
I mean, Seattle, their line is they lost Russell Okung into free agency. I think their line is pretty bad.
It's one of the weak spots in their team. It is.
Yeah. So it's just I don't know what I honestly can't think of what Carroll would be looking at in regards to Russell Wilson out there that long. I mean, it doesn't matter who the quarterback is.
Yeah, it's interesting. Usually in game 2, they'll play, a series or two, and then they'll get the first stringers out of there. I mean, that's what you've always seen down through the years, and which is what we expected to see from Teddy Bridgewater. But leaving them in that line, I mean, with a suspect line is a risk, and it's probably not good for Pete Carroll's fans.
Yeah. Well, we're not in Seattle, so we're not talking about them. But good showing by our defense. Griffin chased him down one time. Beautiful sack, and good pressure all around by the.
Anthony Barr had a nice one.
Yes.
I mean, and a lot of those sacks, we had multiple guys on him. I mean, it was.
I just love to see how Griffin closed on him on that one. Oh my God! It's
great.
like he went to a second gear and just saw him and just went after him. But
I would love to see that happen about 15, 20 times this year.
Be nice.
In games, yeah, and save some of those for games against the Cougars, please, Mr. Griffin. We would love to see you chase your
Our
down
defense
a lot.
is so talented. I know this. I'm not breaking any news here, but it's just. I remember growing up and leaving the room when the defense was on the field, getting a bad feeling about it. I could say now that our defense is as fun to watch, if not more fun to watch than our offense, which is something I'm not accustomed to.
They got some holes though, which brings us back to the run defense. They've got to shore that up soon, because that's what you're going to see people doing against them. You're going to run the ball a number of times so that they can thwart that pass rush. And
well, and rushing defense is so important because you need to shut that rush down, because if you can't, you're not going to put the other team in passing situations where you can excel at. You have to shut the run down. Other than when teams just go on their offensive game plan and game plan to pass too much. But they'll learn that about us if we can't shut enough of the run down.
I'm not sure why it's not happening. You got what's his name, Linval Joseph back, and of course Kendricks has been out with injury, so that probably doesn't help because he's part of that. But it's a head scratcher why they're not better at the rush defense.
I see a lot of people saying, "Well, Kendricks isn't there, don't panic." But and I've asked this question on the show before. I don't know what the disconnect is, and I don't know what they're doing to improve it, considering the personnel's pretty much identical to what it was.
Yeah, it's
last
interesting.
Year. I mean, you think with those guys on the line, the only thing I can think of is when Sharif Floyd dropped to us in the draft. They said he had really small arms and he had trouble getting off blocks because of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine that's a huge determining factor across a line of that many people. But
his bigger deal is he's been injured every year, and he's not out there yet either. So
yeah, his presence will help if we can get him in.
Absolutely,
Sharif's a thick boy. You don't run through that very easily, and I think he will help our run defense for sure when he's back out there. So Sharif, please get healthy, get out there right away. Hopefully, we'll see him. In these next 2 games. I'm not sure what his prognosis is for the game coming up here, but we'll deal with that a little bit more. So, how about on offense in the game? What were any thoughts from our offensive performance?
Nice to see Cordero Patterson flash a couple times. It was, it's kind of what we've been missing with him out injured to see that. I saw it all in OTAs and in camp how they're trying to find different ways to get him the ball, and they did it again. He gave him that short pass and he cut up. And he looked like he did his rookie year with that run. I mean, it was this.
Great point.
Pardon the pun, but a flash back to his rookie year. And he's like, wow. He still has it. He's just getting the opportunity now because he's in the right place. He's doing the right things. I don't know. I'm excited to see something.
9-yard gain.
It could be. Yes, it could be.
People loved it. I heard people saying that he could have housed it if he waited for his blocks to develop. Whatever. But it was nice to see a Patterson have a play that looked like it was written up for him.
Right.
As opposed to last season he had 2 catches all year, so that wasn't really the case. Outside of that, my personality being what it is, and I do want to say that I understand that Thielen's going to make the team, and me and Joe have had this.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Good.
Well,
Joe has said it, so yeah.
But
and you've backed me up, Skolt. We've both been.
I deleted those tapes.
Nice. That's a wise move.
Well, I'll put it in print. Everybody knows if I say Skolt has spoken, then that's me putting my foot down and everything. Thielen will make the team. Skolt has spoken.
Oh, did you have a point, Joe, that we just kind of jumped all in?
Football?
Yes, he is.
That was kind of my point.
Yes.
some great catches. That kind of begs the question why he isn't higher on the depth chart. I know there's kind of a logjam of talent, but man.
Maybe he will be this year.
I really think you'll see him getting a lot of run with the first team. When they go to 3 wide sets and stuff like that, he'll be out there because he's going to be that security blanket for Teddy. He's going to be where he's supposed to be. He's going to, he's physical enough to make the catch, and he's going to make the catch. He's going to run a great route. So I think when if push comes to shove on some third downs, you're going to see him out there.
For sure.
But then it also brings up the whole question of Jarius, right? Where does he fit in? Yeah. Unfortunately, on the bench.
They have Treadwell is third on the depth chart right now, or at least they did before the game. I saw Thielen making catches that you would think Treadwell would make, the tough over the middle ones. I mean, I can't see Treadwell justifying a higher pick on the spot on the depth chart than Thielen at this point.
Yeah, I don't know how much the Vikings pay attention to the depth chart. I think they put it out because they have to, and they just at some point they'll have to do it again. They'll have to revise it for as they get closer to the season. So, I mean, I wouldn't pay too much attention to that. It's a thumbnail. It's a framework of where they're going to be. But I'm sure they could week to week they can slide up and down in their minds all the time. So
Zimmer's so open about this kind of stuff lately. I just trusted him.
They're getting ahead of our segue. We'll get to
that. Was a good segue though.
That was, but I'm not going to go there yet because I like our receiver discussion and I agree with what you just said, Joe, too. That receivers, you can kind of put them in and out and everything, and where someone is on a depth chart, really that makes no decision-making ability to the coach. If it's game 4 and they want to draw a play and they want to put Thielen out on this one or Jarius right on this one, they're going to do whatever they do. It doesn't matter if he's first, third, fifth receiver on the team. You're going to do that. Or Cordero, if they're going to run some plays that are more designed for him. It was good to see him in there, and I was really wishing and wanting to see him get thrown to more in that game than did, and it was what it was. But.
And there's maybe the case of they're bringing him back from injury, and got his feet wet. Got him feeling the rush of the adrenaline for the game, and then you want to get him out of there before you get too many people pounding on him, and he re-injures it because they do want him. That's what I'm thinking. So because I was the same way. I said, "Ooh, God, let's see a little bit more of that," and. And they also have so many people to go through. I mean, look at this receiver set that the decisions that have to be made there. And then when you tack on the tight ends with Red Ellison getting off the PUP list this week,
right.
There's 4 of those guys. And can you keep 4 of those, and can you keep 6 or 7 receivers and put Mobile on the practice squad? But these are some tough decisions they're going to have, in this receiving group.
Yeah. And you tied in the injury thing, so now we'll segue to that because I can't not take 2 segues to the injury discussion. So the game starts out, and we were talking off air before we started how Johnson was saying how Paul Allen was talking about Teddy Bridgewater starting the game, and all of a sudden it's Sean Hill coming out, and I'm like, "Yo, Paul, Sean's coming out to start the game." I'm seeing, and then Paul he must have been reading his notes, not looking on the field to see what was happening, and seeing that here's Sean Hill starting the game, and. He adjusted to it, but then, and here's my one pet peeve, Paul, I love you, but you talked about that all game long, that Teddy wasn't in there. And I understand it's a talker, but there was other parts of the game too. But anyway, it is a talker, so he doesn't play Teddy. And later Zimmer says that's a decision that he just wanted it to kind of be done right there. But the media...
that darn media.
Media didn't want to stop there. So, Joe, since you are the media person on the staff here...
Well,
you get to lead this part of the discussion.
The media never really got a chance to start there. That's unfortunate because, and I think I wrote a story about this for Vikings Journal. I have firmly believed that that Zimmer has the right to say whatever he wants. He can tell us whatever. It's a free country. Sure. He's the head of the team. He doesn't have to do, and he doesn't have to talk about injuries right now. He's not compelled by rules to do it until the first game, coming up in the first week before the first regular season game. So, but. He could have done so much better as to putting an end to this discussion than the way he did. He was repeated 3 times, "It's my decision," and that's it. It's my decision. It's my decision. It's my decision. And any reporter worth their salt is going to say, "Well, why did you make that decision?" And if he's, he didn't want to answer it, he kind of hemmed and hawed around it, and he just left the door wide open for the media to come charging in. And had he not done that, had he said, he's got a sore shoulder, and they just said, "Well, what happened to his shoulder?" He would have said, "I don't talk about injuries," which he has not from day one,
right.
Which is his right. Then I think it goes away. Then it's not as big a deal, I give him all the credit in the world for how he is with the media. He doesn't like to lie to the media. He said that before. I even saw him apologize publicly to a reporter for not being upfront about something that the reporter had asked him earlier in the week. And so I took that in consideration, that this guy is upfront with us and he's straight with us. And I think that played into this, and somehow he didn't want to say something here, but it's almost like I can't tell a lie either, so I'm just not going to say anything. And I'm not saying he's handled it terribly, but he could have handled it so much better.
Yeah, I mean, if his plan was to sweep it under the rug or to say, I don't want to focus on the injury, he shined a huge light on it. I come from I won't call myself a media member because I write from my house in my sweatpants, but I think the way it was handled on TV really made people a lot more curious than they otherwise would have been. I mean, Paul Allen was kind of freaking out about it, and you have Ben Lieber on the sideline, like, I'm going to figure this out, I'll be right back, and the players didn't know what to say, nobody really knew what to say, and then Teddy, around halftime, looks like someone ran over his puppy, so that probably didn't help. But, I was going to ask you, Joe, what you thought the logic was for Zimmer to do something like that, but I think you explained it pretty well in saying that he doesn't pride himself as someone that misleads journalists.
Absolutely.
But he was kind of painted into a corner with this.
A little bit. It surprised him. By the way, we've heard it didn't happen until right up before game time, so it was a surprise to him that all of a sudden he showed up with a sore shoulder. But there's the whole idea about Zimmer feels about competitive advantage, and we've heard that from other coaches. You don't want to, Belichick is like this. You don't want to let them know who's hurt, so that if you tell them his shoulder's hurt, then they go popping that shoulder a couple times, and then they, the whole Favre thing. And in fact, I referred to our discussion with Tommy Kramer of a week ago on the 3D podcast, is that he goes, the players still do that. You give them a bullseye of where someone's injured, they're going to go after it.
Sure.
It's part of the game.
On the drive out here on K-Fan about that, they had one of the players from Minnesota Wild, and we're talking about the difference between the NFL and the NHL and how hockey doesn't require the detailed breakdowns of injuries and everything because of that for targeting reasons. If anything, I think this might have opened a, shed a light on that topic, at least in Minnesota. I don't think it's going to change anything, but I found it interesting. I've already seen people kind of turn on Zimmer a bit, which is kind of a Minnesota thing to do. But I think at the end of the day, he wanted to protect Teddy, and
absolutely.
Well, he said that later, and I heard what was his comment. So he wanted to protect Teddy, and he was like, if I played somebody and he was hurt and he got more hurt, you guys would be ripping me, all that stuff.
He's absolutely right.
And that's true.
In a preseason game, absolutely.
Yeah. And kind of zips back to our Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson discussion. Yeah, Carroll would have been roasted if he would have got hurt. So, and that same thing would have happened. So I agree. It's smart to sit Teddy when you have any bit of injury concern. Adrian Peterson he didn't play, but no one's worried about that because we're all used to Adrian not playing. So, so no big deal. But yeah, if you sit a guy in a preseason game, not that big of a deal.
Yeah, maybe he got caught blindsided by it a little bit and didn't have a good response, because I think if he'd go back now after what it's become and thought about it, he'd have handled it differently, rather than set up this kind of little tete-a-tete going between him and the media.
He's still a coach that's learning the job and as the head coach.
Good point.
So it's growing things that he's going to have to do too. We've seen that happen a lot worse with Childress and Leslie Frazier, and in past years. So
the last thing I want to see out of it as a media member is for him to head down to the bunker with our old buddy Denny Green and just dig his heels in and not be as forthright as he has been, and not I don't want the relationship to deteriorate just because of this.
Exactly.
So.
Now, another angle with not playing Teddy that hasn't been talked about a lot, we had a little pre-show discussion about this, is by putting Sean Hill in right away against the first-team defense for Seattle, great way of evaluating who our second-string quarterback is and what he's got to show.
Yeah.
And I think that really needs a little more discussion from people like us, which is why we're doing these kind of shows, is what do we think out of that?
I saw some people online that directly after the game thinking that it was a way to put Hill out there in as close to a real game situation as possible with little to no preparation outside the preparation he does. Just throw him out there and see how he does.
Which is how he would have to come in in a regular
Exactly.
season game.
And you
Yeah.
want to know what this guy can handle against the live bullets. And I mean, Seattle's one of the better defenses to be putting that up against.
Especially after what we saw last year when he came.
I think in that side of the coin, I think it's a great decision by Zimmer to start Hill in that game. And
I thought he did pretty well. I mean, Sean Hill always looks good in the preseason. I mean, his arm isn't what it used to be, and it didn't used to be that great. But he runs the offense.
He runs the offense, but I heard the comment too many times by Pete Bursich. Well, his throw came up a little short on that one.
Yeah.
I saw that one a few too many times. Well, yeah, it's going to. He's 34 years, 36 years old.
Yeah.
I agree with you. The Vikings benefited from it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go so far as to say that was Zimmer's plan. I think that he found out shortly before the game from the trainer that Teddy's shoulder got sore, and he didn't want to risk him or protect him, so he had to go this route, and he had to play more than he had. And on K-Fan after the game, Zimmer did allude to the fact of what you said, Skolt, and that it gave them an opportunity to do that. I'd have to go back and listen to the exact verbiage, but it just didn't sound to me like this was his plan from the get-go. So
And who knows if he would want to discuss that as much, because if you're another team evaluating the Vikings and you're thinking that they're concerned about that, does that make, if you got a guy that you are trying to make a trade, do they try to push that up there? And there's certainly been some discussion, and it's been around there. Should the Vikings be going after someone better as a second?
Yeah, they went
backup
after.
quarterback
They
like
made an
Kaepernick?
offer to Nick Foles, supposedly,
Right.
who everyone thought was looking for a starting position, but then ended up in Kansas City, back under his old head coach. I think this situation wasn't geared, or they didn't do it because of that, but I think it helped satisfy that concern, or help them look at Sean Hill a little bit more. I don't know if they're any more confident after the game than they were beforehand.
If anything, it put up a sign that says, "Hey, we're shopping for some backup quarterback."
Yeah.
You just gotta hope that Teddy stays healthy.
Of course we do. But if we can solidify that, and a name like a Colin Kaepernick is something that's a little bit intriguing, because here's a guy who has shown some good ability. He's gone deep in the playoffs. He has athletic ability. He's also dropped, so he's lost starting position where he's at.
He's destroyed the Packers.
Yeah, he destroyed the Packers very well. Love that. Thank you,
Yeah.
Colin. But is he somebody that maybe the team should be looking at trying to pick up? I mean, that would be maybe a good move. I don't know what San Francisco's trying to do.
I'd rather see him talk to Kansas City, who's got 5 quarterbacks on their roster right now, including Alex Smith and Foles and somebody else. Now maybe Foles is the that was more enticing to go to KC because he's got a chance. Well, then you can be the quarterback of the future, they're telling him. Where in Minnesota, you're solid behind Teddy,
Right.
and you're the same age going forward. So
Philadelphia's got 3 quarterbacks with over $20 million contracts on their roster.
Yeah. So Kaepernick, it's a reason that he's fallen off, so much, and I'm not sure if I know what that is.
I claim he has a dead arm.
Oh, really?
That something happened with his arm, and he wasn't always the most accurate quarterback to begin with. He's a running quarterback.
He was a running quarterback.
I don't know if our offense is. We have the type of offense where a running quarterback can step in and the transition would work.
Right. Yeah.
I just think that the skill sets are different. We need somebody like an Alex Smith who can make high percentage throws under 25 yards, pretty much, hand the ball off. It's scary to think about.
It's a concern.
Kind of scared.
The position is a concern right now. After from this one week, I mean, you mentioned how K-Fan talked about it. It is a big deal, I think, because this shows Vikings and their fans just how vulnerable they are at that spot. You got Heineke on the bench, and he's not going to, I should say on the injured reserve, and he's not going to come back and help the team this year. And what they were looking at for down the road, and they have to make a decision on him. Do we cut him loose, or is that someone, or keep him for next year? Because Sean Hill's going to be done after this year, I would think. He's only got 1 year left on his contract, so. It all of a sudden really puts a point on the fact that the quarterback position was not addressed, and it really needed to be in the offseason, I think.
Yeah, because that is the one injury more than any. If Teddy goes down, that hurts our ability to be as good as what we're all kind of hoping and dreaming that will be the case this year?
I can't imagine if our line stacks up like it was last season that Teddy will make it through all 16 games. He didn't make it through all 16 games last year.
Most quarterbacks don't. So.
He only missed a series, though.
Yeah, but he was knocked pretty hard.
Yeah.
Hardcore.
No, you're right. It's just luck that he did, play in all 16 games, I think, because, you're going to get a guy his size is going to get banged around. So
at half the time he dropped back to pass, he was rushed.
Yep.
A lot of contact. He's not the world's biggest guy. Maybe that helped him. Maybe he's still young and wiry, but yeah, that luck doesn't last forever, especially up in.
There's some other injuries too, right, Skolt?
Yeah.
Xavier Rhodes.
Xavier Rhodes has missed a little bit more time.
Play of the game.
What have you heard more about Rhodes?
Well, I thought they did an MRI, but I don't think they'd come out with what it is yet. I mean, it was originally reported as a hamstring, and I thought Zimmer said that he was going to get an MRI, so that's always concern that's more serious than just a tweak. So,
right. Yeah, hamstrings are such a there's so much that can happen there. It can be little things, and it's like you just get a little precaution. You rub them down, you stretch them well, and everything. You come back in a few days, and you're fine. Versus if it gets serious, that can be a real bad nagging
it's
thing.
Bad news, but
Yeah.
because he's probably our best cover guy back there. But and the good news is it's a pretty deep position with Newman and Trey Waynes coming up, and you've got Captain Munnerlin and even Alexander McKenzie has looked good. So they've got some options there. Mackenzie Alexander.
It's not as deep as it looked a week ago, though. Really, I mean, with Newman being 38 and Rhodes, being out for any amount of time, you're looking at Trey Waynes as your number one guy. That's not what a lot of people expected.
Nope.
I'm glad that Waynes is getting the extra reps and practice time now, though.
Absolutely.
Good thing for him to get to help that growth factor, because we need him to be able to be a step-up guy and be, like you said, our next best cornerback to Rhodes. Because ideally, love to have those two as our DB backfield for 10 years, and just be solid and strong. And everybody comes in. You go to Minnesota, you know that you're going to have a hard time passing on them just because of their coverage. Let alone what we have on the pass rush happening and stuff too. But.
Yeah, I think Waynes has looked good. I know Zimmer isn't ever really happy with play on that position. It seems like that's his specialty, and Waynes has been kind of. Some of the comments were that he was playing a little too far off the ball. I don't think he feels comfortable yet in his own ability. This is coming from someone who played high school hockey, so I understand it. I'm kidding. But it seems like when if he's so fast, he doesn't need to play that far off the ball. But he just doesn't trust himself enough to not get beat. But he's shown when the guy gets a step on him, the step disappears. I mean, the guy's lightning fast. So
it takes a while at that position, and it took a while for Xavier Rhodes to get where he was last year, and we were thinking he was going to be this year. So, you don't get it right away, and maybe that's a part of the deal where you got to get the confidence where you can play that aggressive, man style, and I think he'll get there. I think he's got a good head on his shoulders, got a good coach that knows the position.
Definitely, so. I think all of our quarterbacks are in a great position as far as who their coaches are and what they have here in philosophy and game planning and all that. But talk about one of the hardest positions to come in when you're a rookie or when you're new, because especially then every NFL team is going to come after you there if you're the new guy. You can maybe hide a little bit if you're a new linebacker that you're going to not get run at every time or passed on all the time. But if you're a DB and you're a rookie, Aaron Rodgers is going to be gunning for you, or
out on the
Drew
island.
Brees, or Tom Brady, or whomever you're playing. They're going to be wanting to complete those and up their stats for their career against you. So, good luck.
Yep. And there's Matt Khalil again. Oh my goodness, this is a more disheartening injury than a lot of them, I think, just because they got the battle going over at right tackle between Andrew Smith and T.J. Clemmings, and now you got to move Clemmings over to left tackle to play for Khalil, and that's happened the last 2 days. And Khalil's had knee trouble since he's got into the league, and so he's been his bugaboo. And he was really looking to. I don't know what. They still haven't said what it was. I thought people were saying it was lower leg, and that's usually what that refers to.
I saw one report where, and it might have been our friend AJ Mansour, if I'm reading right, wrote something as a tweet that he got rolled over or something, and it was like the comment, that looked like it's going to hurt tomorrow, or something like that. I could be wrong, so AJ, if that wasn't your quote, I'm sorry. But
that's that's something that can linger. Granted, it's probably good. It's during preseason, so maybe he has time to come back. But you want to go in strong to that opening game, and you want to have that offensive line set and working together and gelling. And boy, it's doing anything but that right now.
Especially him and bringing Boone in next to him. That's been a big thing. Everyone's saying Boone's gonna up Khalil's game, and Khalil's not out there.
Now Clemens has got to go back over to left tackle where they had him backing up Khalil earlier, and then they decided that wasn't going to work, and they brought him back right, and it's like, what's going on in this guy's head? He's only a sophomore.
To Khalil's credit, though, last year he went out of a game. I think it was the Giants game late, and that was like the first time he'd missed a snap. In his whole career, so he's been pretty healthy and pretty durable. He's had these little tweaks here and there, though.
Agreed, though, but his down years, though, were the years where we find out after the season. Yeah. Despite the fact that he played, he's been injured, and he's had, after 1 year he's had his knee scoped, and then I think that another year of the same thing. And it's like, I don't want to start out this season again with him, having a lingering issue that he has to deal with the entire year, and then his play's going to be off.
That's one of the big storylines for him coming. He said this is the first season I'm coming in healthy.
Well, he said that last year, didn't he? No?
I read it.
Was it again this? Maybe it was. You're right. Yeah, I think you might be right.
And so there's a lot of Khalil apologists out there. He had pneumonia, he lost all that weight, which would be awful at that position or in general. But yeah, it just with Khalil and the team, we're kind of racking up a lot of injuries here. Barr seems to be perpetually injured, and with his knee. Kendricks.
And we don't even know what that is either. Yeah. Did we say that Zimmer doesn't like to talk about injuries? I think we said that.
He kind of does, yeah. With Kendricks, I remember that happened at camp in that Saturday night thing. He kind of got rolled into. And
did it?
You could tell that he went down hard, and he was walked off the field. He walked under his own power, but he went with the trainer, and then he didn't come back.
Was he limping? Was it a leg thing, you think, or?
It could have been leg, or maybe, I don't want to speculate that it was into the back or not.
I for some reason think it's his back, but I'm not.
And backs can hurt. I've had some back injuries too, and those really stink when you get that, and that takes a while to heal up. Sullivan.
On the other side I was just going to mention, on the other side of the coin is the fact that Sullivan has been playing with this back. Now granted it's still not regular season games, and it's still not 60 snaps or how many snaps you'd get in the game, but it's better than I expected. I'm hopeful now. Before I was pretty pessimistic on his chances, but so far so good. And you got Fusco coming back this week, to play again. So hopefully he can play in the game, but. It's now before it was the interior alignment, now the outsides are hurting. So
yeah, injuries in preseason, we had that so much last year. Hopefully these are going to be small things and
gotta start drafting.
Not a big deal. So, but it happens. It's part of the game we always have to roll with. So, and on it goes. So, well, time for a quick break here. We want to talk again about that. We're here at the Mermaid where we record these things, our podcast shows for 3 Deep. And soon we'll be able to welcome you to come out for some of these shows. So stay tuned. We'll announce that plenty, and I'll promote that as big as I can out there. And Joe, on Vikings Journal and on Purple PTSD, so you can hear those things there. And I do want to mention both those websites. I don't do enough of that. A lot of great articles to read there too. So not only can you hear 3 Deep off of that, but there's great articles that both Joes write on both of those websites. So be sure to check those all out and more. There's other writers who put out a lot of good things. I can't keep up with it all, but it's fun, and I certainly like doing it. So check those all out. At the Mermaid, you want to be checking out all the Viking things going on here, because the Viking World Order, we'll be having some parties that are coming up here. I know Mermaid just has started to promote those a little bit online on Facebook. We've got a VWO party coming up big time in September, which is before the home opener game. That's going to be on Friday the 16th. One of the Viking World Order guys, DJ Mike, some people know him at Country Bike is his VWO general name. He does DJing here on Friday, Saturday nights at the Mermaid. So come check those out. And again, on Friday the 16th of September, big party will be here happening. We'll have some Viking World Order nightings going on there. You got to come and see what that's all about. So that's all here at the Mermaid. And then, as I've said before, I'm doing my Viking viewing parties here at the Mermaid as well too. So for every road game, when that game's on, you want to be here at the Mermaid watching, cheering it all on. It's free to get in here. There's lots of free parking, so bring out the family and friends and have a great time. If there's a game room here, if you've got kids and they want to do something a little bit, they can't last all 3 hours of the game. Lots of other things to do. There's bowling. You can make a huge day of it and a lot of fun.
Free popcorn.
There's popcorn, yeah. And but come out in your purple too. I don't want you just coming out in like a sweater. I mean, wear your Viking jerseys, paint your face if you want to. But I'll be here doing that. We'll do the first down cheers. We'll sing Skol Vikings after we score, and we'll have a good time. On September the 11th, that's the kickoff weekend for us. That's a noon game where Vikes are at Tennessee. I have already confirmed I've got 2 Viking cheerleaders that'll be coming that day. So you want to come and you can get pictures with them for free. They'll have their lovely Viking calendars that they sell. So you want to get some of those. $20 is what those cost, and proceeds from that do go to the Vikings Children's Fund. So want to promote that big time. It's a lot of fun, and there'll be other guests that will come for those too. So check those things all out here at the Mermaid, your big sponsor of the 3 Deep Show. You guys are going to be here for some of these now?
For the away games.
There we go.
Yes.
Good deal. All right. We want to move on to now. We've got our next game coming up. The first game ever, Purple Palace, coming up against the Chargers.
I didn't know. Do we get another new stadium in town? Purple. I've heard of the Vault. I've heard of the bank. I don't know this Purple Palace thing. That must be the soccer stadium, no? Oh, I kid.
Yes, we do. So anybody who's been listening all the time knows that Joe and I go back and forth about that. So, of course, to the credit, I heard on KFan this week it was used, and I had nothing to do with it being used on KFan.
Was it used sarcastically?
No. They were referring to the first game coming up at the Purple Palace, and I was like, way to go, KFan. So.
Skolt must have got a patent pending or copyrighted the Purple Palace so he can get a little taste every time they say it. So
I wish that.
It's a good move.
That'd be good. I am going to get to know some people over there pretty soon, so I'll have to see what I can work my way in on.
There you go.
That'd be good. So, well, again, we've got the Chargers coming up. This is the 3rd preseason game. Usually, this is the one most fans in the press and everybody looks at as the most important preseason game. When your starters play the longest, not that you're going to see a lot in terms of schemes, but you're going to see guys practice. Do you think that Peterson might be playing in this one?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, but the fact that they're being non-committal about it makes it a little more interesting, I guess. Personally, I think it would. I know last season was a completely different situation with him missing 15 games, coming back a little rusty. But I think that bringing in Tony Sperano and Pat Shermer on the offensive line and tight end positions, trying to get Teddy and AP on the same page with running out of the shotgun or the pistol. I think it would be nice if AP played a couple downs.
Well, was last year's opening game San Francisco?
Yeah.
Didn't he look a little rusty in that game?
The whole team looked rusty.
The whole team did, but including Peterson. We're all waiting. We're all excited to see AP run for the first time, and very disappointed. So I would love to see him get get a series or 2 with the first team. I really hope Teddy plays, but that's another thing. But I don't know. I mean, listening to trying to read the tea leaves and read between the lines with Zimmer this week, he got kind of grilled a little bit at the media scrum about whether or not Teddy was going or AP was going to play, and then today when Norv Turner had his press conference, Zimmer walked past and said, "Hey, is Adrian Peterson going to play? What about competitive advantage?" Just kind of rubbing it into the media, and I didn't see it happen, so I don't know what his attitude was in that. But it's a little bit of a stick that knife in and twist it a little bit,
Yeah, hopefully that was all from a funny point.
I'm hoping so.
That he said it in a playful manner.
Did he? Yeah, it sounds like Zimmer.
Decided to show up, but
on the job, I would hope not.
Yeah, you think after the week that he's had, he would kind of just drop it, but that's Zimmer. I laughed when I heard that.
He's a competitor. There's no question.
He is.
And if he's going to play.
I am. I was kidding. I mean, as far as the injury, they asked Teddy. He says, "Of course I expect to play." He didn't say I was going to. He says, "I expect to play."
Well, because as we know, it's the coach's decision.
It is. But if he's injured, and we don't really know if he is and to what extent, then you don't want him to play. I don't care how many reps he needs. You want the guy there for the first series of the regular season games. So. it'll make us tune in, right? We've got to see if these guys are going to be out there.
I do hope that Adrian does play some, and not just your point to last year and how that all went is a good one. But the running game hasn't been. There's been little bits and pieces here and there. McKinnon is good, and we know that, but the running game as a whole has not looked as good and sharp as it needs to. And
I agree.
More from that angle, irregardless of who any player is, Adrian included, our run game needs to get some kinks worked out, and this is the time to do that because you can't go to Tennessee and do that. You have to be ready to run when you get to that point. So
you got new coaches, you got new personnel.
Right.
When you're not in, even if it is the preseason, when you're not in as close to a game time situation as it can be outside of practice with AP not playing, it just isn't the same.
Exactly.
Speaking of competitors, how do you think AP is going to feel when he rolls into town on Sunday and has to, sees this big, brand new, beautiful purple vault, and he's got to stand on the sideline and not get out there? He's going to be digging and wanting to get out there and play for the fans. Absolutely.
Well, sure, you want to get him in there. He's got to score. It'd be nice if he could score the first touchdown for the Vikings in the Purple Palace.
in the stadium.
That would be cool. That would be very cool. So I would love it. So
Are you guys going to the game on Sunday or?
I'll be in the press box. Yep.
Oh.
And I will be in the VWO section 140, where we're going to be rocking and rowdy as much as we can be. It's going to be a practice game for us a little bit too. We've been already talking a little bit like we got to get some plans in play here, so the VWO will be working on that. But
I saw online today that there's still tickets available. Maybe it was Ticketmaster had them, and my son is coming to town for it, so I sent him a note, and he got a ticket, so we're going to roll down. So you can still get one, Joe, if you want to.
I was planning on listening on my AM/FM radio. It's kind of cool. It's not the press box, but it's my press box.
Sounds good.
It's a great game, though.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's funny. The Chargers have some interesting things going on. Researching a preview for the game today, and I still haven't signed Joey Bosa.
I don't understand what's going on.
It's gotten a little bit strange, where they're what are they talking about his bonus or his signing bonus and how it's going to they've already offered him something that's as good as anybody that's gotten this year. Except for one of the quarterbacks, or Carson Wentz, and it's been better than players have gotten in other years. And
it's pretty much the best deal since the new CBA came out.
Thank you.
And it seems to me that what they're arguing about is really trivial language that has to do with
how it's paid or when it's paid, or that does seem kind of silly.
And from the last thing I read, the Chargers took the deal off the table now and said that we're just going to give you a worse deal. Like, what is going on here? I thought that this kind of was a thing of the past.
Yeah.
It mostly has, it seemed like, but I guess not for these guys. And who knows if it's the agent that's the stick in the craw versus the player versus the manager.
I also saw something later in the day about they're struggling with a new deal for Phillip Rivers at quarterback as well. So okay. I don't know what's going on with San Diego management there, but it's. Or if it is, the players themselves.
They got all their eggs in put all their eggs in the basket with the LA move, and they're just falling apart.
Yeah, aren't they? They're going to come up and look at the new Viking Stadium and be saying, "Boy, wish we could have a nice place to play."
Well, they can wish it, but the Vikes got it now, so there we go. But hard to say. I'm just so thankful that we haven't had those kind of signing problems in a long time up here. So that's good.
And you'll have Melvin Gordon, that's his name, the running back from
Wisconsin.
Yeah, he buddy of Trey Wayne's, childhood buddies. They'll be playing against each other. Now, last time when the Vikings played them last year and beat them 31-14, I believe, Gordon played, but Wayne's didn't. So, but I'm sure Trey Wayne's is getting all fired up to hear all those Melvin Gordon questions, which he really didn't like answering last year. So
I read that Gordon and AP were working with the same. I don't know if it was a coach, but they're working on their fumbling issues together. So there's a storyline there, but
I think so many of the storylines are centered around the Vikings on them. It is with all preseason games. You're more concentrated on your team than you are winning, but it seems, even though Zimmer seems to really put emphasis on winning these games as well. But, is Teddy going to play? Is AP going to play? Who are these injured players are going to be on the field? How often, how much, what's the offensive line going to look like? Who's going to get the start at strong safety. Last week it was Michael Griffin. The weekend before was Andrew Zendejo. It sounds like they've got a really good battle going at that position.
There's been a lot of talk about it, and Zendejo's putting up enough to not be losing the position, and most of what I've heard is it's probably his to lose, and Griffin's the free agent guy that they brought in to try to be the one to take it over. So I'm glad that there's a battle there.
Right.
That's one thing.
You'd think that Griffin would have the leg up just by the nature of the dynamic of having to bring somebody in because they weren't comfortable or they didn't have a lot of faith in Zendejo, but it seems like he's had a pretty good preseason. I know he just has a tendency to give up a lot of chunk plays. I don't know if he takes a play off or if he just bites too hard or something. But
he's a good hitter. They like his tackling. They like him in there for that. But yeah, you're right. Every once in a while, you're just scratching your head on a Zendejo play and wondering what happened there. So yeah, it should be fun to watch to see who gets the start. And if they're going by game by game, it should be this week. And this is the game. Supposedly is a dress rehearsal for the regular season, so maybe we'll find out. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure this will give us plenty to talk to about on our show next week because we'll be following that up, and then a quick turnaround because then we play the Rams come here on Thursday night, so it's a short week of preseason games, and there's going to be of course cuts starting to happen after this third game, and there's not usually huge groundbreaking ones, and I don't think. We can talk about this if you're expecting there would be any groundbreaking cuts off of our current roster. Any thoughts as far as that? Who are some bubble people that we're thinking maybe done after Sunday?
I don't know, but I will go on a limb and say I'll bet you Teddy doesn't play in that fourth game against the Rams after what happened last year. Just that's beside the point.
Greg Williams.
Yes, that's the guy.
He was on the sideline.
Our old favorite buddy.
Start on Greg Williams, who should not be coaching in the NFL.
He's ruined I've been watching Hard Knocks, as I'm sure a lot of our listeners have, but it's just hard to see that guy exist, I guess. But no, I don't foresee any earth-shattering moves coming after this game. I have heard a theory and this is probably from the camp that kind of has the same belief that I do, that Mogo didn't get any plays this last game because they do want him on the practice squad, and they figure why broadcast his talent to the rest of the league where he could get taken off waivers when we know the team essentially knows what they have in him and they want him on the practice squad. I figured I'd bring that up.
I can't argue with that. That could be part of some of what they're doing, but
I thought it was odd that there was. Maybe I just in my head I built him up to be such this thing, and I just found it odd that he hasn't really had more than one or two looks the whole preseason.
Well, and that's part of it. He's got so much to learn coming in. He's never played the game before at a level that's close to this, and his learning curve is steep. So he may have the raw talent, and maybe they don't want to showcase it so that someone does steal him, because I think most assuredly he's going to end up on the practice squad, and so why give that away if you don't have to? But I don't know.
He hasn't shown enough in the games thus far to earn a spot on the roster as it is right now.
But you realize now the opportunity.
But to get him to the practice squad, you can't cut him after this week and then try to bring. I suppose they could try it, but I think that's just you're too susceptible then to him being picked up elsewhere.
I don't know who they're gonna let go. You wonder if in some cases they might take a player that's. There might be a surprise where it's someone who you figured was a little bit higher on the depth chart, and cut them so they get a chance to hook on with somebody else. Maybe it's someone that Zimmer really appreciates on his defense, like maybe not Jabari Price or somebody that. Anton Exum, he had a bad game last week.
I saw a lot of that. That's the end of the Exum era in Minnesota.
Exactly, and so maybe a guy like that goes so that he can go catch on with somebody else. But
speaking of somebody who may catch on with someone else, I was reading the Thielen article this Sunday from the Star Tribune, and it referenced Isaac Frichte from
that's a good point. Yep.
I guess I never realized he was so big and so talented. I thought he was more of a slot guy, not a 6'3" guy who the article said was maybe the fastest receiver on the team, which I posted on Twitter, and then this is why I'm bringing this up. Isaac Frichte retweeted it, and I burst into flames. But that interaction got me to thinking, like, I'm surprised he, with that skill set, hasn't really caught on anywhere. I mean, he's been on our practice squad, obviously, but he's a big guy. He's relatively fast. You still get to see a lot of them.
Well, if he's on the practice squad this year, now that you've tweeted that, someone's going to scoop him up and put him on the roster.
It's all me.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
And then we'll just you'll be done because you'll spontaneously combust and
Retire and play Pokemon.
there you go.
No, you can't do that because you're our tech guy here, so that makes some of these things go. So that's not possible. So no bursting into flames, Joe.
Go is they kind of go. We'll leave it at that.
Yeah, Fricky. I personally I see him being a hard one to try to make this team, just because of all the other talent at the receiver. In the first game he didn't catch a pass that got tipped, that got picked off. Those are those little negative points that are going to go against you as well. So I like that Troy Studermeyer, and I'm just not so sure. When I saw him in camp, and he's got some flashes. He certainly has speed and quickness, shifty, but he hasn't caught everything in games when he's had some opportunities. So
he didn't get a lot of separation in the punt returns. He was bumped a lot this last week, but it seems like Cheryl's always makes something out of nothing on punt returns.
He's shifty.
Yeah.
He is.
Quick and shifty.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier. So.
And Stoudemeyer or Studemeyer, however you say his name, they're going to keep him around, as long as they can, because just to take a bunch of the reps that away from guys like Patterson and Sherrill, so they don't want to get them getting beat up. But.
Sure. Now, on the flip side, of course, other teams have to make cuts too. And as we've talked, we've had some injury concerns. So, there's no way to really predict the names or anything off of other squads. But how much do you think we're going to be looking at other teams' cuts to maybe try to bring in some other offensive linemen?
I think you'll see it happen. I don't know how much this week, because in the first round of cuts, I think once you get deeper and closer to the season, you're going to find the Vikings really scouring what's out there to see what they can get.
Yeah, the last cuts obviously are bigger, because that's when, if you got a team with a veteran guy that they're paying a little more, but they've got a rookie who's really proven his worth, and so they can cut a salary dump kind of thing.
Yeah, and
maybe you can get some talent.
The Vikes have a decent amount of cap space to play around with. If they needed to do something, I think, I don't know.
I'd like to see him some kind of younger veteran backup quarterback. I don't know who that would be, because there's not that much out there. There's so little that you can do unless you can trade for somebody. And that's what you're probably going to have to, because nobody's going to give that up since the pool is so shallow.
Yeah, if Dallas hasn't figured it out yet, the market's not that great. Considering what they went through last year, they probably burned through.
Oh, but they're singing the praises of Dak, or whatever his name is. I'm not sure of his last name, but I've seen a lot of reports where they're excited about him, and he's the guy for the future. Yeah, as soon as Romo gets hurt.
Well, I'm just hoping Dallas hasn't figured it out and still doesn't. If the Cowboys went 0-16, would not be a problem here at all.
Yeah, last season was a highlight. Watching them fall to the doldrums.
Yeah. Although if we need them to beat one of our division fellows, we'll maybe need to do that too. But so this is the San Diego game coming up. It's going to be interesting. Now, with San Diego coming up, it does bring into play one little thing I want to mention. A former Viking great, one of our 50 greatest, Ed White, played for both the Vikings and the Chargers. He's on the 50 greatest list for both teams. He's not in Minnesota very often, but he is going to be in Minnesota this coming weekend. And it's a rare chance to meet one of the 50 greatest. He hasn't been here since 2010 when we had our 50 greatest thing. So I'm putting it out there because he's going to be appearing at Joe Sensor's in Roseville, along with Eric Kendricks, our starting linebacker, sponsored by AME Sports. And that's going to be this coming Saturday, 2 o'clock. So if you want a chance to meet one of the 50 greatest, all-time great, who's still get some buzz about maybe getting into the Hall of Fame someday as one of the senior candidates, which I'm all for. As well as, of course, meeting Kendricks. Great opportunity.
A future top 50 player.
Yeah, that would be great to see. So come on out there. I will be there, of course, and having a lot of fun with that. So I'm sure some other VWOers will be there too. So come join us and check that all out. So there's another 3-deep event coming up that we want you to be aware of. I think this is going to wrap up our show here for today. So on behalf of Joe and Joe, This is Scope. I have spoken. And remember to check out 3 Deep.